One of the great benefits of MIDI is we can quantize the data. And that means we can take a performance which has natural human variations in it. I play, I'm not always going to be right on the beat. I'm a little before and a little after. And that little before and little after can be a musical component like swing or groove. But sometimes when playing MIDI, maybe we're not the best piano players and we're so far off that we could consider it being sloppy. And quantization gives us a way to kind of tighten up a performance in that it looks at your MIDI data, sees what kind of metric value or what kind of quarter note, eighth note subdivision that note is closest to, and pulls it to that grid line. Really, really useful to make things sound tighter than the original performance was. Quantization, a really important part of editing MIDI data. And there's a couple specifics you're going to need to be aware of. The first thing you do before quantizing is set the grid. And usually 16th note is a great grid to set. But what you really can do is look at your MIDI data, look at your performance, and see what the smallest value used was. If you're only playing quarter notes, then you can quantize to quarter notes. If you played some eighth notes, you can quantize to eighth notes. If you played 32nd notes, you could use a 32nd note grid if you're that fast. So first you adjust the grid, and then you can quantize to it. Now you may find sometimes that when quantizing, it pulls the note to the wrong place. And that's because your performance was that sloppy. So usually I would recommend kind of listening to your performance and adjusting the really bad notes by hand first, and then go through the quantization process. I think you'll find it'll be more accurate that way. The other really important parameter in quantization is the quantization strength. By default, at 100% strength, the notes will be pulled all the way to the grid, which will make for a very robotic performance. Now, in some instances, that makes sense. Sometimes you want things to be perfectly aligned with the grid. But for me, when I'm quantizing, I like to leave a little bit of that human feel in. I might have been behind the beat too far, but I might want to keep it a little bit behind the beat still, so it retains some of the feel of my performance. And a quantization strength says how close to the grid it goes. At a 50% strength, it'll take that note and bring it halfway to the grid. At 100%, it would bring it all the way. As a quantization strategy, I would suggest setting your quantization strength to 20%, and then just doing it repeatedly till it gets tight enough. So, you take your performance, you quantize it to 20%. That'll move the notes closer to the grid. Have a listen. Does it sound tight enough, or is it still sloppy? If it's still sloppy, do 20% again, and do 20% again until it's close enough that it sounds good, but it retains some of that human feel.